providing a forum for university leaders to discuss important issues on their campuses.
Just like Vice Chancellor Pascale.
Yes, just like Vice Chancellor's guy.
So I represent, I work at Universities Canada, and we have put in a joint bid to Global Affairs Canada, as Ransford mentioned, to administer the new Canadian International Development Scholarship Programs. And I'm joined by my colleague Pascale, who's been hired as the manager of operations for the program, and she's coming to us from the organization that Universities Canada partnered with to submit the bid to Global Affairs Colleges and Institutes Canada. I'll let Pascale introduce herself and colleges.
So thank you for having us. My name is Pascale. I will let you my card and a brief summary of the program. So we will talk about it a bit later. Just to say that Colleges and Institutes Canada represents we have 140 members. They are all across Canada. They are colleges and institutes, and in Canada, they offer TVET training, but at the higher education level. So we together we form the higher education, all the higher education members in Canada. So we have a huge
236 members together, so all of the higher education sector.
And so Colleges and Institutes Canada has more or less the same mandate that Universities Canada does with the colleges members. So we represent them. We do some representations to the federal government as well to increase their capacity and so on. So that this is mainly what we form a partnership. The thing that I want to outline as well is that Colleges and Institutes Canada has a broad experience at the international level. We've been managing international programs for 40 years. So we've been working in South America, Latin America, all across Africa, a bit in Asia, but less now. And we are still running programs in Tunisia, Senegal, Mozambique, Tanzania, Kenya. And now with that program, we will expand our scope.
So the broad lines of the program, and again, we're still working on the details, and hence why we're gathering information on our inception missions with regards to the partners, with regards to institutional policies and practices, is that we will be running a scholarship and customized capacity building program over the next 8 years. So between 2022 and 2030, and this is in the briefing that Pascale has provided you with. And the beauty, I guess, of the partnership between Universities Canada and Colleges and Institutes Canada is that, as Pascale mentioned, on the college side, they have a wealth of experience in international development programming. And on the Universities Canada side, we have decades of experience in scholarship administration. So combining the two, we've come up with a program that essentially will provide, on one side, so we're calling it sort of Stream A and Stream B on one side, just over 300 scholarship opportunities for students from mostly sub-Saharan Africa and mostly in La Francophonie to come to Canada to do master's, doctoral degrees, postdoctoral research, and on the Stream B to co-develop with institutions, with our partners, and with other organizations based on local needs and requirements, capacity building training programs, so customized programs. And there are two sort of different mechanisms for the scholarships and for the capacity development programs. And we have our three main partners, AAU, the African Institute for Mathematical Sciences, AIMS, as well as UMOA, the Western, I'm going to get it wrong.
Yeah, the Western, this is a Francophone group, yes.
UMOA.
Yeah, okay, in French. So, yeah.
So that's sort of the broad lines of the program. We can get into a little bit more of the details, but we're here today to understand a little bit more about your campus. Would love to hear a bit more about some of the scholarship initiatives that you have here.
Before we do so, I would like to outline the fact that we are aiming a number of 51% of women to take that opportunity to get these scholarships. And one of the reasons why we have integrated this second stream with capacity building and co-development program is to help girls and women to get access to these new programs, because sometimes it's more difficult for them to travel to Canada for 2 or 3 years or whatever. So it's easier to for them to get access to these programs.
Gender parity is always on top of my
Yeah,
list.
wonderful.
So when you say that, then know that we are in good company. It's very important. So, well, as Ransford may have told you, for 12 years, I was running the Ford Foundation International Fellowships program. And basically what we were trying to do was to kind of bridge the gap, leadership for social justice. That's what we called it, leadership for social justice. So it was mainly a program that was targeting people who were working but who had come from marginalized backgrounds and overcome quite significant challenges and still made it through their bachelor's, and they were doing some interesting work or work that was impacting on their various communities. The belief was that, and it's typical in most African countries, with just an undergrad degree, a bachelor's, you tend to end up in implementation with little or no voice in policy making.
Yes.
So the idea was to move these people up to do their masters, so that with the wealth of experience and implementation, they would have a voice in policy making. And who better than those who've experienced some of the challenges in their communities and who've actually worked with some of these communities. So then once you give them the chance to go do their masters, they rise and they can get into leadership and then make significant impact or input into the policy. We had a few for PhDs because we also realized that higher education is important and you'd want people, but the focus was mainly on the master's level. We had a few there. So over the 12 years, we had quite over 1,000, if I should say, students, Ghana, Nigeria, Senegal. Those were the 3 areas I had oversight. But then we had East Africa, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania as also part of the bigger program. We had Southern Africa, Mozambique, South Africa. So we had quite a number of, but I was focusing on the West African. Pardon my voice, I've had this
Take
cold
your
at
time,
work.
take your time.
So basically, as I said, the idea was that a new generation of leaders with direct knowledge of their society's problems, right, will benefit from postgraduate study and then come and help make things better.
Yeah.
That was what, and the idea was that social return, the social return on education is quickly compounded, you know, through reinforcing networks. So part of what we're doing was also building networks, right, with a common purpose. So we have the networks of the universities, then we have the network of the students, or the network of even the partner organizations. So the issue of networks was very important. And I remember some of the significant things for me was when a student was coming back home, you could reach out to the alumni association and say, so-and-so's graduated and is returned.
Yeah.
And they could help support, or even some of the partner organizations could help plug them into networks. Employability was very important. Most of them had to relinquish their jobs to go and study because they were not being given study leave or anything. So they had to drop go study.
everything and then come back.
And then going back, if you don't have a job
Yeah.
and you don't have a network, that can be very frustrating. So for us, building those networks as part of the program was very important, right?
Can I just
Yes.
thank you for a quick second, because this is one of our main concern in the program. We want to build this network to help the alumni to come back and get a better job, get if they left a job, to come back and get a better job, and to have the possibility to enter the labor market or create their own business.
Right.
So I was wondering how you did it, because this is a very important,
Yes.
I always think about that.
It is. In fact, currently what I'm doing here at Ashesi, even though primarily my focus is on recruitment and managing scholarships, what I've started doing is I call it the 360. So when I'm traveling with somebody from career services, I'm traveling with somebody from alumni relations.
Okay.
So for example, I was in Kenya 2 weeks ago. One of the things I did was a corporate cocktail, inviting corporate Kenya
Yes.
to come. And then we spoke to them about Ashesi, invited some of our alumni who were there. They shared the experiences, but with that, you're creating awareness.
Yes.
So then they're like, oh, then I want some of your students for internships, for job placement. So that when there's students from Kenya and they're going back, we tell these people, we have students coming. We actually created a portal where corporates can actually register with us.
For job
For
opportunities.
jobs,
Okay.
yes. So then our students can go there and look at which jobs they're interested in and apply.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you don't want to train them for 4 years
No, no,
and they have nothing to go back
No,
to.
for sure.
It's not worth it.
No.
You would have set them up. You raise expectations.
And then
you
you
dash their hopes.
exactly.
So there's always important to think at the end game.
Yeah, of
What
course.
you want at the end and start working on it right from the beginning.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing now. So I'm doing recruitment. I'm inviting heads of schools, counselors to a meeting.
You create events when the
Create
corporate,
events,
yes.
they're coming there.
Yes, okay.
Students are coming in there. You're bringing corporate. So you're virtually creating a safety net
Yeah.
for these students to go back to, because it's very important.
Okay.
And
No,
you don't wait till the last minute.
No,
You
no, no, no.
start
You build a
build a
relationships at the
relationship.
very beginning.
at the very beginning.
Yes.
I
In
think that-
addition to those events, what are some of the other sort of frameworks within which you're ensuring that there are opportunities? So other than sort of gathering the right people in the right places, including alumni, including corporate, what
So
other
one of the
frameworks?
things we do very well is our website.
Okay.
I don't know if you've been there. You should go to our website.
Okay.
There's a lot of information on our website. And for example, I meet you today, I get your card. I'm going to sign you all onto our newsletter. So you get our newsletters.
Wonderful.
So that you know what's going on. So that's how we keep it in front of in people's minds.
Communications.
Communication. So once every 2 months or every quarter, they're getting newsletters talking about what's going on at Ashesi, some of the things our students are doing, what faculty is doing, new partnerships. So there's constant communication with any stakeholder that we think is important.
So you do the same with the corporate.
Yes.
Okay.
So corporate, I have a dinner, I collect their cards, and then
Okay.
they get them. So we sign them up and they're getting our newsletters, right? And then, of course, I have a whole database of people who've either applied for admissions or shown interest, heads of schools. And every year when we start admissions, I have about 4,000. I send them email. Admissions are open. This is the link. If you know anybody, let them apply. And we send a blast to over 4,000 emails that we have in our system.
Okay.
So every year they know that we started. The applications are open and they can tell somebody they know, like, look, this is a good opportunity. You should
Yeah.
be looking there,
Okay.
right?
And are you collecting the information of, for example, how current students, scholarship recipients, etc., have heard about opportunities? Okay.
So when we do on our website, the application portal, we ask how you heard
Okay.
about Ashesi.
Yeah.
So somebody will tell you from a friend,
Mhm.
from my school counselor, from a family friend, or from the newspaper. So we track where people, and then we know where to put our resources.
Okay.
If people, so we find out that most people is word of mouth.
Mm-mm.
They heard from a teacher, they heard from a family
Yeah.
friend.
Yeah.
So then it's important to build these relationships. Because when they see a newspaper, it's so generic.
Yeah.
That's not what is. And actually, we are also very particular about our marketing. And remember a couple of things. That's from you. And so I'm mixing the two, but I hope it's okay.
Yeah, sure. She's very interesting.
Very, very.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like that.
Speak a little bit of French.
Yeah, she speaks French as well.
Ah,
You know, so what we what we try to do, I tell people, is that most universities or things for us at HSC, most universities advertise their courses. And people are like, why don't you advertise their course, like the programs you run? And I tell them we're inviting them to a vision and a mission. If you love what you hear about our vision and mission, then go to our website and look for more.
For programs.
We want people to be proactive and not just, we want to teach them to fish, not just to grab the fish.
Yeah,
and eat.
yes,
So go
exactly.
look for it. But so we use a lot of alumni stories. You would see that at the back, right? And we're using pictures depending on the age group you're looking for. We we just started our first master's program in January with ETH Zurich, right? But until then it's undergrad. And these are young people, short attention span. So putting together a whole list of things,
No.
it doesn't get anywhere.
No.
But they will always remember the picture.
Yes.
They will always.
You're right.
I'm very
You're right.
particular about my marketing material.
No, you're
I'm
right.
not going to put 1,000 courses there now. It's not going to help them. They'll just go and look for what they want.
Yeah.
If it's the courses. Oh, I want business admin. But we want them to look beyond that degree. Why are you even getting the degree? So for us, it's a mix of things that they would remember. Oh, do you guys do law? I'm like, no, we don't do law, but we set you up in such a way that you can go and do anything else after your bachelor's.
Yes.
You know, so they're looking at the long term rather than the short term. And that, I think, is very important. So back to the Ford, what we try to do, as I said, is you have a secretariat, you have the partner organizations, and then we had placement partners. So IIE, Institute of International Education, was the major placement partners. Because again, we believe that specialization has something to go for, right? I can't be recruiting and at the same time trying to find schools for them.
Yeah.
So what we did with the Ford was, the secretariat was in New York. We had the partner organizations. So AAU was the partner organization for West Africa. And once we did the recruitment, selection, preparing them, then IIE would help us find appropriate schools for them if they chose to go to the US. We actually worked with NUFIC in the Netherlands to help find those. And then if it was on the continent, we did it ourselves. So some would go to South Africa, some would stay in Ghana, then we worked to do that. So there was a bit of specialization, but we focused on recruiting the students and preparing them. Once the students So we did a lot of the marketing, talking to people. Once applications came in, we sorted it out and then looked at, we had a criteria. We also tried a lot to, okay, I may have to turn this off and open.
Yeah,
No problem.
The
no
AC is
problem.
getting
Yes,
too much.
to our, yeah.
We had a lot of partners even internally. One of the things we're very clear about was the issue of integrity. So we were careful. There's always the issue of, on the continent, people think you need to know somebody to get something. And we wanted to move away from that.
Yes.
Create enough credibility that people know that you don't need to know anybody. The system is fair enough to everybody. So one of the things was none of our family members could apply.
So they're ineligible.
Ineligible.
Yeah.
My sister could be eligible, but you can't go around explaining to everybody if she got on. People will assume she got in because she was my sister.
Exactly. Yeah.
I remember very well my sister was looking for a scholarship. I had to go with her to the scholarship secretariat and say, you apply here. She got onto the British Evening and went, but not my scholarship. It wasn't going to happen. So we're very clear about ineligibility. And then, because this was people from marginalized backgrounds, it was also important to be firm. Everybody is looking for a way out. People who don't even qualify will attempt to apply. So you need to have in place a system where you could do some background checks if needed.
So this is part of the selection process.
Yes.
Okay.
And what I did with that was to get people from different regions in Ghana and different backgrounds as part of the selection committee.
It sounds a lot like the way we put together our selection committee.
Right. So they would come and read the applications, and then they would give them a rubric, and then they'll give us the feedback, and then we put it together and say, okay.
And rank.
And rank.
Yeah. And so are they doing this online? Were they doing it on?
So at that time we were bringing them together.
Okay, so in-person meetings.
In-person meetings. But these days you can do everything online.
Yeah.
One of the things I loved about COVID. One of the things I loved about COVID was the fact that we did a lot of work remotely and we got very good results. So even here at Ashesi, my team and I at different places, we're doing selection online. We put everything together and we're ranking, right? Let me see if I can get one of those So we have our criteria, we look at everything, and then we rank.
So this is an activity that happens prior to the actual formerly in-person selection committee, now let's say online selection committee. Do you start with a ranked list based on like your rubric that you've given, or is this an activity that happens in the meeting?
So with the 4 foundation scholarships, everything was in person.
Okay.
So they come in and I put them together maybe in a guest house hotel for 3 days. And they have a pile of, we've done the shortlisting.
Yeah.
So you need to screen some out and they're reading. So for example, 3 of you, the 15 folders, you read 5, you swap.
Yeah.
So everybody reads the 15.
Yeah.
And you've given us your scores and then we put them together.
Is there a discussion about that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So once they're done, now we say based on the feedback, this is it. And the interesting thing is, you could give somebody 8 over 10. He may give 4 over 10. What did you see that he didn't
exactly.
see?
This is
So
exactly the way we
then we have a
understand it.
conversation. What did you see to give him 8 and why did you give him 4? So then the discussion, and we can agree that honestly it might be more of a 6 than an 8 and a 4.
So is there a re-ranking of that group's
Yes.
candidates, and then
Yes.
there's presumably a threshold within
Yes.
the funding?
That's
Okay.
it. So that's what we do there. We agree, but if generally it's plus or minus 1, we're fine. If it's 8, 7, 9, it's okay, it's around. But when you have that big gap, wide gap, then we're like, okay, there's something wrong here. What did you see? Why did you mark him down? Why did you? Then we have those discussions. And once it's done, the 3 come together and say, yes, based on our discussions, this is the list we are giving you for those who should go forward to the interview. Then there's a different group that does the interview. It was part of the checks for us. So they give us a list. So for example, we have, let's say we're looking for 5 slots. We put 15 people forward for the interview.
Yeah.
So 3 people vie for 1 slot.
Yeah.
We're looking for 15. So then another group, there's a panel, and they're doing, the one person sits in front of the panel and they're asking questions.
So these are different people, sorry.
Different people.
Than the people that ranks the files.
Yes.
Do the people that conduct the interviews also have access to the
Yes,
application?
yes.
So they've done some pre-reading.
So they wouldn't have access to everything. It's just the 15 coming to the interview.
Yeah. So they've been pre-selected as candidates for the interview, and then
they get to read. In fact, not the full thing. We pick abstracts. Because again, these were very busy people who made, so they have abstracts. But on the day of the interview, they have the folders there. So they can always pick and refer before the candidate comes in.
Okay.
If technically they read the abstract that we've sent to them about each candidate, when they get there, the folders are there. And if they say, I read candidate A's, I'd like some more in depth, this is the folder, they can look at it. Right? And then the person comes and they ask questions. Okay. General questions as well as questions on your application. One of the things that did for us was to make sure that at each point, the different people reviewing. So by the time they had gone through, you know that it was not based on one person. So there's no need trying to influence one person to help you get that scholarship. There's multiple people, so you can't even waste your time trying to influence them. Secondly, there's certain things that the final group, when they meet the person, might catch that those who just reviewed the files would not catch. So at every point, there were advantages. It was long, it was tedious.
Well, it's truly a merit-based process.
Very merit-based.
You are getting the right scholars in the right place after your process.
And these people who did the interviews came from different regions of Ghana, because one of the things we're trying to do was also geographical representation. We didn't want everybody coming from the north or everybody from Accra. So different people, and people try to game the system. The more people hear about what you're looking for, the more they try to tailor the applications to what they think you want.
Yes.
So somebody will say, I live in this part of Tamale, north of Ghana, and somebody's sitting there who's lived there or grew up there, and they start asking questions. And you realize the person was just telling a story. And they can't give you details. You know that they're trying to gain. So it was long and tedious, but you knew that once you got the people, they were the ones you really wanted. So what we'll do is to have, if we're looking for 5, let's have the top 5. And then these are maybe 3 on wait list. If for any reason somebody chooses not to accept, then you have somebody. You have a replacement.
Did you provide any kind of financial compensation for selection committee members, so like an honorarium of some sort?
We did.
Okay.
We did. It was very important. These are people who are taking time off.
Yes.
So it was very important that we did that.
I have a small question.
Sure.
How did you manage the gender aspect of, for example, in an interview, women has a tendency to sell themselves less efficiently than men, or even in their submitting fund, in their application, they will provide less details about some aspect that might be important for the selection committee. Did you
Yes, you're right, and I still encounter that
Yeah.
even now. Men tend to, I mean, tell you what they've done. Women tend to think they're being modest, and they sell themselves short. So that's where the interviewing process is important. So normally we have, remember I had to come in and said, okay,
Yeah.
point of correction.
Yeah.
In fact, crying makes her human. It tells me she can empathize.
Yeah.
So with all due respect, I think we're going off course. And up till now, the lady tells me she couldn't believe I came to her defense. She's like, whoa, Millicent. She's now the director of our Office of Diversity and International Programs here at Ashesi. But she started tearing up, crying, and they're like, we're looking for leaders, we're not looking for crybabies. And I was like, okay, I think that's offline, you're being too, but in fact, the crying tells me she can empathize with people who are in similar situations. So for me, it will be a plus that she's not afraid to show emotion. Leaders shouldn't be. And the other community members agreed with me. So I was not interviewing, but I was there to make sure we were staying on course.
Yes.
So moderation.
Moderation.
Yeah.
That was something that I found very important.
Yeah.
Because different people come with their own personalities, prejudices. Much as you do the training and all that, you can never tell. So you have to have somebody there moderating to make sure things. And after each candidate, people have scored, but we'll also discuss.
Okay.
What were the merits of this candidate? And then I'll be taking notes, or somebody will take notes. But we collate what they have. I take the general discussion, and when we're done, we put it all together.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the interviews, we rank and say, these are the people we want to put forth to the foundation. So
Did you design this process, or was it informed by the foundation?
So we had some, in fact, it was interesting. We called it learning by doing.
Yeah. I mean, it's shockingly similar to the way one of our programs runs, like almost identical to the process, but not all scholarship programs operate the same way. It's
not all
amazing to hear.
scholarship. They had some ideas,
Yeah.
but those of us, we were the first, the pilot.
Yeah.
So we came up with a lot of it. I worked with it to develop
It's a really
quite a
robust
number
process.
of these, because it was very, very interesting as we went along each year. So it was important that we kept that. And you see, just one of the things, so one of the things we said for that we were looking for different things. So on the left, the academic background, proposed study, program, and purpose, right? I could send this to you. Then we had demonstrated social commitment, leadership skills, and potential.
Okay.
As much as possible, the one who embodies all these three is the target. Somebody who could be a change agent.
Yes.
So that's what we were looking for.
I have two questions about your selection committee process. So the first one is, do you provide any training to selection committee members?
Yes.
So
Yes.
this is a part of
It's part of
onboarding.
onboarding. When they
Okay.
come in, we have a session
Okay.
and explain to them. In fact, we send them a letter saying we're inviting. I talk to them first.
Yeah.
To see that they understand what we're looking for.
Yep.
And then you send them a letter.
Yeah.
Inviting them to be on the committee.
Yep.
And the letter actually
Terms of
spells
reference.
terms of
Yeah,
reference.
so see,
is
so
there.
really good.
And once we're done, they come together. We're like, you're all from different backgrounds. Could I have a medical doctor? You could have a teacher. They're all from different backgrounds.
Well, this is actually my second question, because traditionally for some of the larger scale programs we run, we have difficulty recruiting relevant selection committee members. So we're looking for diverse backgrounds, but non-affiliation with, for example, institutions where the scholarships are going. So how do you actually, how do you do the recruitment process?
So again, it's using our networks. That was mainly what we did. And if we got somebody that we knew, let's say Ransford, like, you've been on this thing this year, you know what it means. Do you have other people you would recommend?
Yeah.
And then we're building that database of possible
Yeah.
people.
And that's
So we may not use him next year.
But you have it.
He's giving us 2 or 3 people who he thinks will be good resources. We will do a background work to see.
There's a conflict of interest.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
We remember I had one case like that.
Yeah.
He was on the shortlisting, those who were reading the files.
Yeah.
And his fiancée had
Yeah. Yeah.
So we had to say conflict of interest, so recuse yourself.
Yeah.
So we did all the, and we told them, in the interest of fairness, full disclosure, if you know anything, let us know.
Yeah. Yeah, and presumably that's part of the terms of reference,
Yes,
like should
yes.
you, yeah.
Yes. So
Okay.
we gave them all that. And then, but it was a lot of reference.
Yeah.
People saying that I loved what I did. I have a colleague or I know somebody. So they'll give us a list. We will do our own checks and then reach out to the person if we thought it was a good fit. Yeah. That's how we mainly selected them. Yeah. And sometimes it was from University of Ghana, other places, and because we wanted the academic aspect as well, not just work, and they're going to do higher education. So we needed, masters, whatever, we needed some academics
Yes,
in there.
yeah, for
So
sure.
it was very important that we had those people in there to do that for us. Yeah, so once they were selected, it was usually for a year before they went to school. We had a gap year.
Okay.
And this was because most of them were working. We needed them to be sure that they've put measures in place, and most of them were married family, women, men, because we required that you should have done at least 3 years post
Graduate study.
bachelor's
Both bachelors.
to get
At work.
into that
Okay.
Okay.
work. So you can't graduate this year and apply this year. You should have worked for at least 3 years.
So
Okay.
do you have any statistics on the attrition rate between, for example, in that gap year, how many you lose, how many selected scholars actually drop off? That's a
We
long
never had
time.
any.
None.
No.
That's incredible. I mean,
None.
these are large scale opportunities, but that
None.
is
But what
incredible.
happened was that we were engaging them. So we start, we bring them together, they're selected, and then we announce to them, congratulations, you've been selected. We have a meeting maybe a month down the road. Because we needed to keep in mind they were working.
Yeah.
So then they could plan for a vacation period and say, I'm taking 2 days or 1 week of work, and they all come to Accra, and we put them, house them, and we're doing what we call the needs assessment. So we were trying to get those who, and remember, most of these people at that time were not used to computers. Some of them were going to do graduate work. They never done research. So we had to get somebody teaching them SPSS, different things. So we did a needs assessment.
So in that year,
To
you could
prepare them.
train them
Yes.
on specific, for
Yes.
example, software programs.
Exactly.
Okay.
So in that
So they'd be
year,
prepared.
we were giving skills, IT skills to them. You're giving them, in fact, even written and oral, because based on their backgrounds, they needed to upscale a bit before they went public speaking. They may be doing work, but as I said, a lot of them may be implementation. I remember my first batch who went to school and they were like, oh my goodness, everybody was talking in class and I just couldn't fit in. And it always felt like I had nothing to contribute. But the level of confidence to speak up, and then because they were working, went into master's program, especially in the US, and they said they found UK in particular, there were very young kids in the class. I had 35-year-olds going, and they were 19, 20
20-year-olds,
years, and they were like, man, am I in the right place?
Yeah.
So we realized we needed to give them a certain level of confidence, giving them public speaking, so many things. so that when they get there, they hit the ground running. Because some have been out, in fact, most of them have been out of academic space for 3 years.
Yeah.
And you're throwing them back in there.
Yeah.
That was going to be
You
a
also
challenge.
did some orientation and the visa
Yes.
issues.
So once we do all this, the needs assessment, then we have to now start talking about university placement. So with the placement, we actually ask them to apply to 3 schools. So the best fit, the stretch, and then the fallback.
That's a really interesting way of articulating them. Yeah. So was that actually the categories that you gave
Yes,
them?
actually.
Yeah.
David.
Okay.
The best fit. This is your best fit. This is good to have. I would love to be there, but it's quite a stretch.
Okay.
And then you have a fallback.
Yeah.
It's also good, but your chances of getting in there are much higher.
So
would
you
be
are
like
almost
the-
guaranteed that
Yes.
between those 3 selections,
Between those
one
3,
of them.
you will get one.
Yeah.
So that's how we positioned it. And then you now look at, we had to give them what it meant to have a good dossier. Talk to them. Because typically in our regular universities, if from secondary school you apply, you don't really write essays, you don't do anything. And most of them have schooled here in Ghana and Senegal. So going abroad, they had to talk to them about writing their essay, putting together a proper dossier.
So it's not only training on the dossier, like putting together their application. Did you also provide a review service?
Yes.
Okay.
So we got another set of people. So
Yeah.
somebody wants to do public health.
Yeah.
We pair you up with somebody who's in the public health sector and say, can you review this application? And so that was where we had to have monetary compensations. We had to pay people to work with them. You can't just assume that goodwill. No. We have to pay people to work with them. So then people will review. And if we are fortunate and we have 5 people going into health, then the 1 person will review the 5.
Yes.
Right. And then they got better at it over time.
Yeah.
So every year we kept them on the reviewers. Because then we also give them feedback.
Yeah.
When people didn't get schools or whatever.
Okay.
The guys you reviewed didn't get.
But would you actually have feedback from the institution with regards to the application that you would be able to provide to the reviewer?
Sometimes we asked and they gave us.
Yeah, okay.
And then we will forward to the reviewers.
Okay.
Sometimes you didn't get anything.
Yep.
No.
And so they're like, okay, you reviewed 5 people, 2 got in easily, 1 struggled, 2 are not getting. So there's something missing. We've got to work at it. So it was interesting. Indirectly, you're also training or helping the reviewers get better over
yes,
time.
yeah.
So there was a whole ripple effect.
Yeah.
Of
And an
things.
entirely new network
New
to
network.
draw
Yes,
upon
and
for future. Yeah.
So that's something that we did. And once they all got schools, then we now did what we call pre-departure orientation.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
actually, part of the needs assessment, we actually brought in people from different, so somebody from the Education USA, right, to come and talk about studying in the US, what it looks like, what is required, before they even decide where they want to go to school or which schools to choose. You had somebody coming from British High Commission, the education sector, different people. If we want somebody from South Africa, and normally, again, within our networks, people who've done, they're professionals, but they've studied in South Africa. We ask them to come and talk about the experience. Then after all that, students now say, okay, I want to look at the US. I want to look at the UK. I want to look on the continent. Once they're done, the dossiers are put together, we send to the placement partners,
Okay.
right? Which is NUFIC, if they're going, that's the Netherlands partner. If they're going to Europe, continental Europe, British Council would help if they're going to UK. IIE would help if they're looking to North America. And then if they're looking to the continent, then the partner organization based on the continent.
Would
So
help.
we would
Okay.
help with that.
Okay.
Once they all get placed and they're ready to go, then we have the pre-departure orientation
Per country.
per country. So then Education US will come and say, going to the US, these are the things you need to do, pay attention to this, do this, going to the UK. So we had all that before they finally left. And we were fortunate. We still had oversight even when they were in school.
So there's like a monitoring framework in place where you do check-ins with
So
them?
check in with them, then I had to get their transcript. So we were giving them stipends, pocket money. It was
Directly to them?
Yes, IIE was sending from the Ford office, they were sending to them.
Yeah.
But I had to approve that I've seen the academic transcript, they're in good academic standing, so yes, we're good to go.
And how did that work with tuition? Was it paid directly to the institution?
It was paid directly to the
That's the
institution.
same way we would do it as
It
well.
was paid directly to the institution. Funding went directly to the students, but then we had to approve.
How did you calibrate the various countries' tuition? So presumably the scholarship is worth an American dollar figure.
Right.
So how did you calibrate those students who were studying at Ivy League schools in the United States versus, I don't know.
The good news for me was that I didn't have to do that.
Okay, so that was the foundation.
That was the foundation.
Okay, so but it was a full ride.
It was a full ride, no matter
what.
No matter where you went.
Okay, that's great because it's kind of offset on the foundation.
So some will be high, some will be low. No matter
so
where
it was
you went.
covered. The stipends.
Stipends. We even had something we call the family fund.
Yeah.
So that it was to ensure that either so if you're going for 2 years, you got a ticket to go and a ticket to come at the end of the 2 years. But sometimes, especially a married woman, a married man would want the husband or the wife, the spouse, to come visit. We had $1,500 or so then. And some said, look, I'm going to use it to set up my wife so that you.
So it's discretionary.
It's discretionary. What you choose to use with that family fund was discretionary, but you had to make a case.
And there was a maximum dollar figure per scholar.
Per scholar.
And they could they would provide some sort of documentation to you, you would review.
Yes, and then we approve it,
Okay.
and then we get IIE to pay to them. Right.
One
It was
time.
a one-off.
Okay.
A one-off. And then some would say that you give it to me every 2 weeks. I'm buying. It wasn't like these days that internet was so rampant, but they want to talk to their families once a week, every day. So I'm buying phone credit to be able to talk to them. Somebody says I've had to stop work. So for 2 years I'll not be earning an income. I want to use it to pay my kids' school fees to be sure they kept in school.
Yeah.
It was discretionary.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But we just documented what they needed it for, and then we did that. So basically that's how we run it. And when they're done, so every semester I get their transcripts. And if there's something wrong, now I have to step in and say, okay, call the professor or the school and say, what's happening with this student? Grades have dropped, or somebody.
That's just you. That's a fairly high level of effort in terms of the interventions.
Very hard.
Yeah. For one person. Or is this a team? A team? Yeah.
We had a team, but that was my job to make sure that at that high level.
So maintaining good academic standing.
Academics.
May I ask if that is based on the institution's definition of good academic standing? That makes sense.
Because we didn't want to be taking unawares that somebody just failed.
Yeah.
So they knew when you get to the stool, they know that there are two people, one primarily me, and maybe a backup at the foundation if they needed the academic office or the international office needed to reach somebody. One of my West nightmares, 12 midnight, I was asleep, get a call, we're rushing a student emergency surgery. And they called me from the US. And I'm sitting here.
Or what can you do?
No, but at least they needed somebody to say yes.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. And I'm like, what? So we need to do an emergency surgery. You are the one on phone. We're calling you.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, if it's a matter of life and death, do it.
Yeah.
Said, we're recording you, so you give us permission. I said, go ahead.
This is in the States
It's
too?
in the States. And they needed somebody, other than that, they wouldn't. It was a ruptured appendix or something. I said, just do it.
Yeah.
I need that life saved. Of course, then I can't go back to bed again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is this one alive? What's going on there? You know? But there had to be a point person
Yeah, sure.
that we're doing that. For this side, because we're a small institution and it's here, I have access. So I can go into a system and check a student's transcript.
Yes.
I do that.
Yeah.
Right here. I get into the system. So a student comes to sit here, scholarship student is talking about something. Whilst we're talking, I'm like, what happened to you? You dropped, your GPA was 3.5, you dropped to 3.2 or 3.1. What's going on with you? Is there anything we can help you with? You know, so even here over time, we've built a system. When I came 9 years ago, we didn't have an academic advisor. Now we have a full-time academic advisor. All he does is to be following up, especially on my scholarship students.
Yeah.
So he will give me a heads up and say, Araba, we have a student struggling. Or faculty know to reach out and say, we haven't seen the student in class for 3 days. And then we follow up. What's wrong with the student? Where is he? Why is he not being in class? Some of them, he got ill and he's been in bed. And I'm like, so first thing I call the health, I'm like, do we have any record of this student coming to you? And said, no, we don't have any record. So then the next thing, okay, who are his roommates? Student service, who are the people in this room? I'm looking for the student.
It's a highly personalized
That,
service.
no,
It's
I
incredible.
should say that's one of the things, very personalized here, very student focused. I almost all the students, I know them. And my Patrick, he's traveled, he sits up there in the office, so I always do Patrick. He's in the US at the moment. He's actually the commencement speaker for Connecticut. So,
Amazing.
and he was like, how do you remember everybody? I'm like, well, everybody's different. That's maybe my gift. I remember all the students' names and their stories. So once I know, I'm like, okay, find me this person. And you find talking with them. Some will come here along the door, they sit here and they cry because there's something back home they're grappling with somebody. So now we have a whole counseling unit, 2 fully trained and certified psychotherapists.
Your diplomation rate must be very high.
94%.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, wonderful. Yes.
Actually, overall in the university, we talk about 90, between 85 to 90. My scholarship students are 90%.
90, yeah.
Because we're paying that much attention.
Yeah.
Because they've overcome so many
You're catching them before
barriers.
they fall.
Yes, before they come here. So we're catching them. I'm checking every semester, at the end of the semester, the academic advisor will send me, I have a template with all the students. So this last semester, this was their GPA. This semester, this is it. It's gone up as 4. Then I go and look at the details and we're checking. And every 2 months, I'm collecting reports or briefs from all the departments. So International Students Office, I need reports on my scholarship students.
Yeah.
Okay, career services, what's up in terms of, we have a whole 4-year career development plan for all our students here. So year 1, we're talking about getting to know yourself. Who are you? What makes you happy? We do the psychometric test for them. Then during the summer like this, we're getting them to do job shadowing. So it's not intention. You get to do 2 weeks with this CEO or this person because you think, oh, I want to go into marketing.
Want to see what?
So see what it is. Is this something you really want? And they can do 3, 4 in the summer, but you're doing job shadowing. It's not paid,
No.
but you are there to learn and get a skill. Then in the second year, we're now starting internships.
Okay.
So they're exploring and they can do internships. In fact, in the last 5 years, we've had to get a grant from MasterCard in particular because 99 of the students are first generation
Mm-hmm.
college, meaning they don't have the networks. We're now helping create the networks. And sometimes they don't have that level of skill to get a paid internship.
Yeah.
I'd rather have them get an unpaid internship where they learn the skill as they're doing the internship.
Yes.
But then some of them don't have the funds
Yeah.
to transport themselves.
Yes.
So we have what we call the summer internship grant.
Transport themselves, insure themselves.
Yes. Make sure that they are comfortable enough to run that,
Yeah. Okay.
to do the internship. But of course, we also notice that students will always be students. They try to game it.
Oh, yeah.
So now this year, I introduced something new. You have to show me evidence of 3 attempts to get a paid internship that failed before you qualify for unpaid internship.
So like responses
Yes.
from, okay.
To say that I applied, this is the feedback I didn't get, and there are 3 of such, but I got an unpaid.
Okay,
Then we will give you the summer internship
that's
grant.
great.
Other than that, they won't look.
Yeah.
People look for the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
So they'll just go and get an unpaid internship.
Yeah.
Because you're going to give
It's
them
so easier.
You're
like
gonna get
It's so easy.
$200 a month,
Yeah, okay.
like $50 a week, so they're happy. I'm like, no, if you can get a paid one, why not? Because we're talking to them, especially in their final year, we're doing negotiation skills, how they negotiate contracts when they get a job. It's a whole 4-year program we have with them. You know, I can send you the write-up on some of those.
What about your scholarship beneficiaries? You almost all of them came back, or along the
Oh,
way?
yes. No, the Ford Foundation, it was amazing. We had about 90% return,
Okay.
which was, in fact, I remember the head of the scholarship, Ford Scholarship Program, Dr. John Dasson, saying that this was unprecedented.
Yeah.
Getting 90% returning,
And how did you do that?
that's what I was coming to say. 2 things.
Okay.
One was the selection process. These were people who were vested in what they were doing here and had a strong commitment and believed that they were going to acquire more knowledge to be more effective in what they were doing.
So there was a component, there must have been a component in the application or in the interview process wherein a question was asked and they responded.
They responded,
Yeah.
why are you even looking for the scholarship?
Yeah.
What do you want to do?
So not even directly, will you come back?
No,
Never.
We never
No,
ask you.
no.
They always tell you they'll come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we never ask, what are your plans? What do you
Yeah.
intend to do with this, the knowledge gained from this? There's one lady, Dinah. She used to be the technical advisor to the Minister for Gender. I know you're listening. Dinah Diko.
Yeah, no.
She said something to me after the interview. She said, Araba, even if I don't get selected, I want to say thank you. I said, why? Said the whole process changed my thinking. Sitting and thinking through, why do I even want a master's program? What would I do with this? Has helped shape my
Figuring
future.
out
What
what
I
she
want
was
to do.
doing.
She said, even if I don't get this scholarship, I want to say thank you. The process alone has gotten me thinking, what do I want to do in future, and thinking ahead. And for me, that was the greatest testimony to the process.
Yeah. I'm dying to know what reason number 2 is.
The reason number 2 is that constant interaction whilst they're in school.
Okay.
The feeling that they're not alone in this. There's somebody interacting with them over the course. They're there. I remember Millicent would call me. She's sitting in Minnesota. She has an exam and she snowed in. And she calls me crying. I'm on the road going to Cape Coast to visit my daughter. She's like, I'm stuck here. I'm going to miss my exam. And she's crying. I'm like, okay, calm down. Have you called your professor? They'll think I'm lazy. I said, no. Have you given them reason to? You are not the only one snowed in, right?
Give them a trail of
The whole
communication.
place. So call. Tell them you have an exam in an hour's time. You're snowed in. They can check. I'm sure they check Meteo, they check your area, they can tell it's a genuine reason. They will give you another opportunity to write. You build a relationship with them.
Like a counselor all along the way.
All along the way. So that thing made them, some of them felt we couldn't disappoint you. We better come back. It was almost every one of them you had, and up to date. I still have relationships with them. I call Angela, I call so many of them. I'm trying to work on a project here, inclusion. Trying to bring disability. Who do I call?
Wisdom?
Not even wisdom. William. The guy who was blind.
Oh, Daniel.
Alex Williams.
Oh, what about Daniel?
Alex was totally blind. He left and went to Syracuse. Did masters in assistive education technology. He's running the disability center at the University of Ghana. He's one of the people in my team I'm working with to help me do things here. If I didn't have that relationship,
No.
and it was just technical, go to school and come back.
Yes. Okay.
So I think for me, that was the second reason, that they had gone to places they had never been before. Most of them, about 98%, it was the first time they were leaving their home countries.
No, I understand that.
And yet, they knew there was a tie back home. There was somebody they were constantly engaged. You had a schedule once a week. Okay, who am I calling this week?
How many at any given time were you responsible for, like within the Ford Foundation scholarships?
So for about 45 in a year, from Ghana, Nigeria, Senegal.
And you would have check-ins with all of them.
So once, if I did 2 a day,
yeah.
you would finish them before the month.
But still, but you have another job. Okay?
No, I have another job, but it could be as little as a 5 minutes check-in.
Yeah. But
Or
still,
2
even
minutes.
just the logistics of organizing the call, time difference, making sure that they accepted the call, like that's a lot there.
And then when the alumni started coming, returning, for them to work.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
The first few groups I did it. After that, I put the alumni to work. Check on your people.
Yeah, okay. So you create a group of alumni to help others upon their return.
Right.
Okay.
While they were in school.
While they were,
And even when
before,
they were-
during the gap year.
Yes.
Okay.
So during the gap year, whilst we're doing orientation, some of the alumni will come, share their stories, how they navigated. So when they go, okay, so US, you have a role model here. If you have problems, call the person.
It's like a buddy system or
Yes.
mentorship.
So there were all these. So first few years was it. After that, I got others doing it, so I could.
But for those who returned, what about those who pursued further studies?
Yes, we did have a few who could do the OPT, optional professional training, and then some went on to do
PhD.
One of the things was, much as we would want them to return, you also didn't want to block anybody's opportunity. But we always told them, remember the reason why you were selected. A few never came back, but most of them did. Right. Even with Ashasi here, most of our students, now it's crazy. Every year we have Goldman Sachs coming to recruit from here, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, London is speaking from here. All sorts of, they coming to look for students. Google, Ireland, where they're always coming. And we tell the students, even if you get the opportunity and go, think about the continent.
Yeah.
So some of them are working on projects based here in the continent, but they're working remotely.
Yes.
Some of them, and I always use Patrick, our founder and president. He got a scholarship. He went to Achimota Secondary year school here in Ghana, got a scholarship to Swarthmore in the US, graduated engineering, worked with Microsoft for 9 years before he came back. If he hadn't, and it was his network within Microsoft that helped him start. Seed money donations came from his network. If he hadn't gone, we wouldn't have had a chassis. Or if he decided to come right after Swarth, we wouldn't have had his network, we wouldn't have had a chassis. So personally, I don't stop students from seeking opportunities.
Yes.
But you always make sure they think long term.
Yeah. What, during the gap year, have you provided the students with some contacts with businesses, or it was so removed for them to know what I will do when I come back? Maybe it's not the right time to do it. I wonder. And when they returned, it was the group of alumni was there, but now was the right time to be in contact with
something I learned.
Yeah.
I was in Maastricht for a postgraduate diploma. One thing I learned then was back home action plan, which I used to do in the Ford, and I'm actually using even now. So right from the beginning, think about the end. So you're creating a back home action plan for when you return.
Okay.
What are the various scenarios? So the scenario planning. Scenario one, I come back to my office where I was. I have a job, come back to job. Even that, what would you do differently? Scenario two, I don't have a job. I come and I'm looking for a job. What are the networks you would need?
Okay.
So before you go, start thinking, who would I need to go, to network with so they can help me plug back in. So start thinking.
Yeah.
Looking at your CV, upgrading, sending it to professionals in your field to look. So you're actually, it's a mindset.
Yeah.
You're getting them to think that I'm going to come back.
Yeah, it's part of the program design from
The
the earliest stage, and it's consistently brought in throughout the programming,
Yes.
which
So
makes a lot of
sometimes I
sense.
get some of my students to read, I'm like, they're graduating, and I'm like, go back to your back home action plan. Or every year, go back to it, tweak it. Now I have this new knowledge. Or I've been exposed. I think I want to do it differently. But it's something that you own. So that's one of the things we did.
So the back home plan was prepared during the gap year.
During the gap year.
Okay.
What do you want to do with the knowledge you're going to acquire? And what are the various scenarios? So you're looking at, okay, I want to work some local networks you need, regional networks, continental-wide networks. So as you go, look for opportunities for these networks. And I tell them, don't go and get into a Ghana group only, or get into a Senegalese group only.
Yeah.
You're not doing yourself any good.
Okay.
You need networks outside. You know the Ghanaians already. Find other contacts. So it's that preparation, that mindset. So they're going knowing that I'm going to acquire knowledge to come back and execute this plan.
Okay, good.
So once they're there, they're working. So that's another thing that I think helped. So I have maybe three. One is that 1 year.
Yeah.
The two is that, and the fact that they're planning ahead.
Yes. And apart from the local companies, or have you partnered with association or NGOs, for example? Was it part of the process? For example, they wanted to launch their own business. How did you manage? Is there some local organization who can help for the entrepreneurship aspect, or it was all done by the university here?
So with the Ford, we were doing pretty much everything. But with Ashesi, one of the things we do is that partnerships. So we have NGOs or people actually who started their own businesses. Like, for example, 27th to 29th or 30th of June, I have what I call the scholars convening. It's virtual. We used to do it here. Students will come here, stay here, but now it's virtual. So we've opened it to other scholarship, MasterCard scholars who are not even here at Ashesi. And it's a 3-day online session. So I'm putting in front of them somebody who's a startup.
Okay, good.
He'll talk about his program, right? And then they get to ask questions. What were your challenges? And then you bring in somebody from different agro processing, and they're there. So 3 days you're interacting with people. And then we ask them, would you be willing, before we commit, would you be willing after the program, 3-day program, for students to reach out to you? And some of them say, sure, why not? Some of them like, I'm really busy. I can't promise because I may not even, but so we have it for 3 days. We're fine. But we do have a network of people that we put in front of students based on what they want.
Okay, thank you. Because this is something that could be part of the back-on plan.
Yeah. And they do have mentors.
Yes.
So when they come, one of the things we do, we give them a buddy. All my scholarship students get a buddy. So somebody in second year, third year. And the idea is that as a big sister, big brother, if they have issues that maybe they're not sure, they can talk to them, kind of trash, before it gets to you. It's only one, we have the resident assistant system in the halls of residence. So there's so many levels, right? But apart from that, there's also a mentorship program that you can sign up to. I'm thinking I want to become a journalist. And then we have people who signed up to be mentors. And then we say, okay, what Araba, who works at TV3 or CTTV, whatever, is your mentor. And we have meetings. So each year we have a startup meeting kind of where we say the mentors and the mentees are together. We talk about what the mentorship program is about, how to make the best of it. And then at that point, so you physically meet your mentee or your mentor. Then we all talk and they go. So for 1 year, and they give us feedback. Somebody says, my mentor is not happening. He's always too busy and never, okay, we'll change. So career services handles that. But I know every year my scholarship students are getting the needed mentorship as they go along.
And in the, for example, in the United States, let's say in the United States, what was the kind of help provided to the students while they were there?
For that one, as I said, they were more mature students. Remember, they were working. So what we did was to tell them, it's in your interest to plug into any association. Let's say you did special needs education. Are there any associations you can plug into and benefit from their corporate?
So encouraging them to reach out and form their own networks.
Their own networks.
Plus the check-ins from here.
Plus the check-ins.
Yes.
Okay.
But we encourage them to get
because it's important for them to melt into the university there as well. Okay.
And so again, unlike these ones who are younger undergraduate, they didn't need too much hand-holding. It was just guiding them, and most of them would find their feet. Right. One of the learnings we came out from the Ford Foundation Scholarship was the fact that even though we're doing a good job, there were many more people who were left behind. If you're looking at social justice. Once you go through the undergraduate program, it's already a level. So giving them the masters, yes, is good. But if you really, really want to make impact, there are more people down there who are not even able to get into universities in the first place. Brilliant. And that's what MasterCard picked and is running. That's why it's doing more of the undergraduate programs. And most of the things we did on the Ford, that foundation work, that's what we're using, to most of the things.
Would it be possible for us to see either any material you have, so briefings on the lessons learned, even some of the stuff, if you're willing to share it on the preparation you did for your selection committee, that
Okay.
would be incredibly
Okay.
helpful.
Okay.
Sorry, I know
So
we're
what we'll
well
do
over
is-
time.
Even the forms, like
Yeah.
the grading forms and things like that, I'll just.
It's only that you will see when you read the brief summary, we're really into the same path, really into the same path in many, many aspects. So for us, it's just like a wonderful match. And what is your work with the MasterCard Foundation? Because both our organizations are funded as well with MasterCard Foundation.
So Mastercard Foundation has the Scholars Program, where they're giving so we were the first partner. So the Scholars Program is 10 years this year. We're also 10 years of managing the Scholars Program here. And what they do is to give us funding, and we recruit from across the continent.
Okay.
Yes, so
Okay.
I started from 40 students a year. Now I have 80 students a year. And our contract with them says 50% Ghanaians, 50 from the rest of the continent. So we bring them from all over, and they're here. So once they get selected, we pay for their tickets wherever they are to bring them here. For 4 years, their tuition is paid, housing is paid, meals. They get the same laptop I have. Everything is taken care of. They get 3 meals a day. They get pocket money. At the end of the academic year, they go home.
Okay.
And then come back for the next year. So for 4 years, they get to go home. And one thing we actually did, which is different from most scholarships, is the summer leadership program, specific from the MasterCard scholars, because we realized that these are, as I said, first generation, most of them. And even though Ashesi is doing a lot of leadership and things, they may be a bit slow to catch on. In fact, they're in the jungles as we speak, sleeping in tents, camping. Again, for me, that's resilience.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So we have all sorts of programs. One of my staff, Jude, is gone with them. So they're doing camping. They were sending me pictures of them setting up their tent on rock. And I'm like, come back safe. And in one piece. So they do that and put them here. We actually send them Pedwasi. There's this hotel, Pedwasi Valley Resort.
Yes.
And we organize dining etiquette.
Wow.
How to even use cutlery. We do everything that we think is needed for them to blend in, right, into society. Some of them are taking swimming lessons. I told them most of the conferences have been, some decisions are taking at the pool. We're swimming, you're fooling, and you're talking, and you realize before you say Jack, you're onto something, and then you follow up. So it's a life-saving skill, but it's also for socialization.
Yes.
Sure.
You couldn't say, I don't know how to swim, and you're sitting there watching. Little things like that. We try to get them even to do that. So we pay for it. They go learn and do so. There's so many things. We're talking about personal grooming. Some of them are coming from backgrounds where, we found out early on, East Africa weather is so good. Our kids are coming from, they're the first in their families, and they've not even used deodorant.
Yeah.
No.
They come here, the heat in West Africa, what do you know? So what I started, I have a starter pack. Deodorant, soap, put everything in. Once we finish, you do orientation. Here's the starter pack. We may expect you to maintain it. They're young.
Yeah.
So you can. So I've had to be innovative as I go and say, what can I do to make? Because at the same time that they're here, you have the. Former president, whilst he was still a president, his son was here. Kids of ministers, diplomats. You don't want to stick out. So you're teaching them things and helping them to blend so nobody can tell, oh, that's the poor kid.
Yeah.
And they are some of my most brilliant students.
Yes.
Saturday we had graduation, the 3 top awards every year, 3 awards given by the president for scholarship, leadership, and citizenship. The 3 were my MasterCard scholars, all 3.
Okay.
Every year. Each of the programs, top performing student was a scholar, a MasterCard student. But some of them had to overcome certain things. I once had a student from Zambia. She had never seen a flush toilet. And it was one student who alerted me that she goes and she thinks nobody's looking, she's pressing to see. And some of the kids were laughing.
Yeah.
What did I do?
Yeah.
The next group I said, okay, as part of orientation, facilities, come take them round. Okay, I'm sure you all know we flash like this. So in the company of everybody,
Yeah, yeah.
you do a general thing.
Exactly.
So you're not picking somebody
No,
up.
no, you're not.
So it's a lot of thinking and seeing what can I blend that becomes a general. So now all first years are divided into groups. So I'm like, yeah, this one too. But you don't know who that kid is who may not know and needs to learn. You know, and we're talking about, remember you're going to be staying with people in the room, so need to use your deodorants, need to use this. So everybody thinks, oh, okay. They don't think Ransford is talking to me. They're talking to all of us.
Yeah.
Because again, the stigma.
It's lessons learned, I think, with all of these situations that you've had and blending it into the way the program actually operates.
So it's a bit of,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's wonderful. Your work is very, very interesting.
It is. And each year as they graduate, I look back, I'm like, wow.
No, there's a,
That's
it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll look back on your career, you'll
Yeah,
remember individuals and
It's the lives that scholarships
Yeah.
can change. Unbelievable. One young lady was telling me from Zimbabwe yesterday, we're talking. It's like, you know, the little amount of money, the stipend you gave me, I built my mother a modest 2-bedroom house. I said, are you joking? What? She said, you gave me, okay, so our ID cards are like ATM meal cards. So you can go and swipe. So their meal card, I don't give them the money, it's loaded onto your card. So you have to eat. If you don't eat, money is gone to chest. So the 3 canteens, restaurants we have, they send a bill. They know these people, like,
Yeah.
at the end of the month, we pay them. If you don't go swipe,
Yeah.
the money is still there, right? She said, I have money, enough money, 50 cedis a day. Breakfast, lunch, and supper. I don't need anything. So the pocket money you give me, 2 things I did. My sister, who never got to get to my level, has kids. I picked her boy. Money, primary school is very little, and I've been paying that boy's school fees. And then I put the plot. Said they had this thatched roof. She's managed to put blocks and build 2-bedroom house for her mom. I was like, what? Even you did this? I said, yes. I said, you should be proud of yourself. But you see how one life is changing many.
yes, yeah.
And that for me, why scholarship is my
Yes,
heartbeat.
that is why I
That's
work in
my heartbeat.
scholarships, for
You
sure.
see the ripple effect. A little boy is going to school because somebody got an opportunity. A mother who struggled all her life now has better living conditions. And this young lady has a full scholarship to Arizona State now for her master's. So we're processing a visa here for her to go in June. Yet, if she didn't get this first opportunity, she wouldn't have gone.
Yeah. And given all your experience, tremendous experience, what would be your main recommendations for us who are at the eve to launch this new program? Because we are here to gather all that information and put in place our implementation plan. So we are still trying to see how we will build something very useful for partner countries and something sustainable.
I think the first thing is you're on track to learn from others. You don't need to reinvent the wheel.
No.
So it's good you're talking to people and then refining what you're doing. But also, I would say to be cautious that people will try and game the system and tell you what they think you want to hear to select them. So you have to be very critical of whatever you receive.
Yes.
And not just take anything at face value.
Yeah.
It's very important. I have seen, now I'm sure you know, MasterCard stopped the master's program. They had undergrad and masters. The masters were mainly with North American partners. They've stopped most of them. I met somebody, Army General in Ghana, I would say the top 10%. And the daughter was on a MasterCard scholarship.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
what is this one doing
Yeah.
here?
Yeah.
I
So
questioned
it
it.
doesn't.
The name alone, and she's from Ghana. I was like, what are you doing here? How did this one get? And they're like, oh, why are you asking?
Yeah.
I was with the MasterCard team. I said, this one, the name alone, anybody. Yeah. So it's good to use partners who are on the ground.
Yes, exactly.
Because that was the part of the problem. The US people assumed everybody coming from Africa couldn't pay.
Yeah.
It's not true.
No.
So initially you got wrong people getting into some of these things. And I asked the girl, she said, oh, I didn't even know about MasterCard. I just applied for a scholarship. They said I'd gotten a scholarship and they told me I came. But everybody will try to get a scholarship if they can. So it's good to work with people on the ground. So they're helping to get the right people in, right? It's very important. And then right from the beginning, building your monitoring and evaluation.
Yeah.
I think that's very important. So you're learning, you're evaluating, and
Sure.
you're monitoring, evaluating, learning as you go, and tweaking. Mistakes will come, but accept they've happened and then we make it better. I think for me, working with partners on the ground is important. Building in that, monitoring, evaluation, research and learning, we call it MERL, MERL,
Yes.
morning here.
Yeah.
So we build that in and we're learning, documenting as we go. Monitoring, documenting, and all that.
We are based on a result-based management system, yes.
Yes.
All our program are.
So it's also very important. And then you're learning as you go.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your time.
Amazing. Now we can give you a tour.
Yes, we would love to see your beautiful.
And I will go through your website to learn
Yes,
more
you
about
should.
your
You
program, your